Colossians 3:4. Therefore, as God's chosen people, holy and dearly loved, clothe yourselves with compassion, kindness, humility, gentleness, and patience. Bear with each other and forgive one another if any of you has a grievance against someone. Forgive as the Lord forgave you. And over all these virtues put on love, which binds them all together in perfect unity. Let the peace of Christ rule in your hearts, since as members of one body you are called to peace, and be thankful. I should.
Going against the rules, right? Oh, I drank it on the first service. What happens? Just leave it there and see if. Ah! Thank you. Thank you. How's everybody? Good to hear. Service is a little bit different, right? Okay. Does that always happen? Like the liturgy gets switched up from first to second? Was that just God working? Okay. If the first service and the second service were Cain and Abel, which service would this be? Just asking. Let you decide. My name is, in fact, Andrew Love. That is my real last name. It means love. It's spelled love. We were talking last night about names because I have two kids and they have very strange names because I'm a strange person. We were talking about how my parents had been dealt the last name royalty, love. And then they were like, Andrew. So, sad story. But I'm here from Maryland. I'm the pastor there. They deal with me. My job there, as I see it, is to constantly be the wrench in the machine. The wrench in people's thinking and their processes so that they can stop and reorganize and see whether that's even the machine that they want to be operating within. So I'm here to help with that as well, and I hope you don't mind. I like to challenge people. First of all, I like to challenge people by not tucking in my shirt and seeing if people can deal with that. Are you guys okay with that so far? And I have socks that may or may not offend people, and that's just where I start. Because this is all about neuroplasticity today. It's about rewiring your brain. But I'm also here, I have a secret hidden agenda, which is not so secret because the announcement was made last week, which is I'm going around the country to different communities and talking about sexual integrity. And it's an issue that is like, there's just kindling all around our country. People who want to talk about this issue and nobody's talking about it. And the idea here is that, you know, pornography is this massive thing. And what I've observed is pornography is this thing that's like a monster that comes into the room filled with people and one by one starts gobbling them up. And nobody's talking about the monster. It's like, don't look at the monster. Not looking at the monster doesn't help the problem. So I want to talk about it and talk about solutions that are arising in our movement and how I feel like this is going to make us, it's going to put us on the map in terms of our relevance, in terms of our ability to deal with this issue and to not just deal with pornography, but how to create the opposite, which is beautiful, heavenly sex. And not only that, but how to create a vision for your own sexual life, whether you're single, whether you're preparing for what? What are you preparing for? Just sex? Sex is complicated, as you know, right? So do you have a vision? And within your couple, do you have a vision? And are you fulfilling that vision? So if you come to this talk, it does not imply that you are a pervert. Let me just say that right out loud. Because some people, I've had presentations where I see people walking by the door and they don't come in because they feel like it implies something. I'm just here to present information and to help lift open the gate so that we can have this conversation that needs to happen. And it's going to be fun, and it's going to be deep, and it's not because I make it deep, it's because I've stolen other people's research, years and years of research. Okay? Cool? Yeah. So that's going to happen at 1:30, and I really challenge everybody to come. It doesn't matter. I said 16, as a cutoff, but if you have a good relationship with your parents or whatever. It doesn't actually matter what age, so long as you feel ready to hear about sex. But in all honesty, these stats are saying that kids are getting exposed to pornography at younger and younger ages all the time because of cell phones. So they're already getting exposed at like 10, 11, so just putting it out there. Okay? So that's at 1:30, but we're not going to talk about that now. So we have the present. So this is, in our community, we're dealing with the quarter. We do quarter themes, and our theme this quarter is, what does it mean to be a true spiritual family? Because people are really confused, because every week I show up in front of them and I say, we are not a church! And people are like, "Fucking shut up to church, what are you talking about?" That kind of messes with them. But I'm so fundamentally I'm drinking the same water as Damien Dunkley, in that I feel like we're a family first. Because, you know, when somebody's struggling and you're in their family, it doesn't matter, they're your family members. When somebody's struggling in your institution, it's easy to form your own thing. Let's just form our own church. Let's just forget about that. But family is in it to win it, right? You're in it for life. You're born into that family, yes? And the whole idea is that we're meant to restore and celebrate the whole notion of family and win as families. And so we're focusing on what does it mean to be a true spiritual family. And one huge attribute that I feel is fundamentally important is to be plastic. And I have some people that were here during the first message, and I feel like I don't want to repeat the same jokes, because then I'll automatically turn into super dad mode. I'm already making dad jokes, and I only have a 3-year-old, so I've got to be careful. But the idea is that usually people perceive plastic things to be fake, or like a plastic doll versus a porcelain doll. People value porcelain dolls, just throw away the plastic doll, whatever. But, and it means phony, like phony baloney. And I'm sure you all know plastic people, right? People who are very fake. Well, that's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about being flexible. Who here believes that they're flexible? A little bit? Okay, that's good. This is a fundamental virtue that you need in this era, right here, right now, in order to stay on the map. To stay relevant to yourself, and to stay relevant to your family and your friends and to society. You need to be able to adjust, because the providence is moving forward. The second you get crusty and stuck is the second that the providence starts moving beyond you. And you start to feel this sense of fear. You feel judged by it constantly. I'm seeing it constantly. I'm dealing with people, right? I have my own community, and a lot of people are stuck in some other era. And because of that, they're not able to be present right here, right now. Okay? So that's what we're talking about. Is that all right with you? Can we talk about these things? Because you're kind of stuck with me either way, so I just want to be polite. I'm Canadian, you gotta ask questions. Okay. So let's start out with a video so you can understand contextually what I'm talking about.
Not so long ago, many scientists believed that the brain did not change after childhood, that it was hardwired and fixed by the time we became adults. But recent advances in only the last decade now tell us that this is simply not true. The brain can and does change throughout our lives. It is adaptable, like plastic. Hence, neuroscientists call this neuroplasticity. How does neuroplasticity work? If you think of your brain as a dynamic, connected power grid, there are billions of pathways or roads lighting up every time you think, feel, or do something. Some of these roads are well-travelled. These are our habits, our established ways of thinking, feeling, and doing. Every time we think in a certain way, practice a particular task, or feel a specific emotion, we strengthen this road. It becomes easier for our brains to travel this pathway. Say we think about something differently, learn a new task, or choose a different emotion. We start carving out a new road. If we keep travelling that road, our brains begin to use this pathway more, and this new way of thinking, feeling, or doing becomes second nature. The old pathway gets used less and weakens. This process of rewiring your brain by forming new connections and weakening old ones is neuroplasticity in action. The good news is that we all have the ability to learn and change by rewiring our brains. If you have ever changed a bad habit or thought about something differently, you have carved a new pathway in your brain and experienced neuroplasticity firsthand. With repeated and directed attention towards your desired change, you can rewire your brain.
So I'd like to ask, I forgot to do this in the first service, but is there anybody that whenever they come here, they always come and they sit in the same spot every time, they have a spot? Anybody have that? Move, right now. You gotta move. If you always do that, you gotta move. That's part of this exercise. Move. You gotta become new people. If you're always in the same spot, just move. Just move. Just move. Be conscious of this. Thank you. So, this is all, oh, look at this, thank you. Are you moving or are you just getting here? Not judging, not judging, not judging. There we go. Migration. Family migration. Welcome to the other side of the room. Give it up for them, everybody. To the other side of the room. So, to me, this is so important because some of the stuff that we're dealing with in our families, definitely within our worldwide family, you see some people just being so stuck with certain concepts and it's preventing them. The way I see it is your heart is this beautiful, it's like God is at the essence of your heart. Your heart of hearts is God Himself. But what's guarding you from gaining access to your heart is stuck thinking, small thinking, fearful thinking. And again, I have to give a disclaimer, but this brother gave me this book, and I had heard about it, I heard lore about it. It's called Outwitting the Devil, and it's by Napoleon Hill, who wrote Think and Grow Rich, which is like one of the best-selling books of all time. But like 15 years later, back in like 1938, he wrote a second book, and it was about him interviewing Satan, sitting down and interviewing Satan. And he doesn't explain what that actually means, how you go about doing that. I picture him to look something like a politician, but whatever, that's just my interpretation. But he is talking to Satan, and he's asking Satan about how he's been working throughout history. And he said from the beginning until now, the way that he enslaves humans is through fear. Fear of death, fear of money, and fear of losing friends and being judged by other people is this predominant sense of you're not good enough. And that has been enslaving humans from the beginning. And I think it's definitely congruent with what we've come to understand through the fall, through the divine principle. And when I read that, it's so true! So true, it's so painfully true that throughout most of our day, think about your days. Think about your days. How much of your day is lived exactly as you saw it, as you want it, as you feel you should have lived it? When I ask most people, they don't even have a vision from their day. They just kind of wake up and live in a state of reaction. And they're just kind of like, putty in their life's hands rather than reversing that. So that's the first thing, is having a vision. The second thing is having the guts, the clarity, and the desire, and the willpower, and the gumption to actually do what you set out to do. And there's something called living in a flow state, or being in a flow state. And that's just when you are in your natural state, you're doing what you're designed to do, because God has planted a seed in each and every one of you to do something. And most of us are too afraid to even have any thought about it because we feel judged by it, because we haven't been living with it, right? So a lot of us, some of you might have done an Isaac offering. I did that when I joined the church. I put my hopes and dreams on the shelf so that I could figure out who I was. But now, that thing on the shelf is accumulating dust, and it's constantly pecking at me, right? And so I have to deal with it, and I'm constantly doing it. I'm doing conditions with my wife. But I got a quote for you. This will kind of contextualize it a little bit more, so you don't have to believe it's just me. Here's from the Bible. They promise them freedom, while they themselves are slaves to corruption. For a man is a slave to whatever has overcome him. Right? And that's fear for most people. It says in this book, anyway, take from it what you will, but it says 98% of humans are slaves to fear of some variety or another. There's 2% of people who are living life by their own terms. And if you're doing it right, you're also doing it with your conscience, because then other people benefit from it. But most people are slaves to some type of iniquity, some like self-talk, that every day they wake up and they say, I'm ugly, I'm stupid, I'm not as good as this person next to me, they're clearly better than me, God, you believe? Like, that's where we live. Is it true? Is it just me? Am I speaking to the church of Berkeley? But the inverse of that, if you want to take the positive out of that, is what if you were a slave to Shimjan? What if you could become a slave to being the best version of yourself? Because anything else just seems like a pale substitute. It's some like mutated version. And that's what we have in store. This is what I'm saying is like, I'm trying to phrase this in a way that people can understand, because I'm blowing up inside. My brain and my heart are like exploding. Because my wife and I have figured out this thing, we're trying to make sense of it, is that we are living in this time where literally anything is possible. We have people talking about colonizing Mars at this point, and it's not far off. You have God is speaking to people's brains, and the limitations, the shackles that used to exist are crumbling. And the one thing that's enslaving most of us from achieving whatever we're meant to achieve is this sense of fear. And I'm telling you, in terms of living tribal messiahship, it's about becoming true parents. It's becoming loving examples like true parents. And in order to do that, we have to rewire how we think about ourselves and how we relate to each other fundamentally. If you want that. Not everybody's buying into that. But if you want that, you can have that. So in terms of relationships, think about relationships. Is there anybody in your life that you struggle with? You can raise your hand if you struggle with a human on this planet. Dead or alive? Okay. Well, because of the era in which we live, and because of understanding neuroplasticity, there's also spiritual plasticity. How you see somebody in your mind is how you've decided to think about them and feel about them. And this is fundamentally true, especially in close relationships. So much so with parent and child, it's so easy to form a concept about your parent. Oh, they're like this. Or for a parent to be, I've heard, it's so painful, honestly. I have somebody very close to me, whenever he talks about his son, he talks about him like a screw-up. And it enrages me, because you're challenging them to live up to this legacy of being a screw-up. It's not fair to them. But he's wired himself to think that his son is this, and it's not true. His son is a child of God. He just hasn't lived up to his potential. You with me? So when you struggle with somebody, especially husband and wife, parent and child, it's like so brazenly apparent. And in my own personal relationship with my wife, we've only been blessed for 4 years. I think it's 4 years. I said 4 years in the last service, so I'm going to stick with that. Okay? I'm in my 30s. I can have a bad memory, right? In some societies, I'd be dead. In medieval ages, I'm like an old man, right? Right? Help me, Pew. We'll leave that here. It's bothering me. In the 4 years that we've been blessed and married, we started out really well. The first year, we had a lot of clarity. We had a baby, but the baby was great. Well, and then we were living in New Jersey, in Fort Lee, Holler. Anybody? Yeah? Can I just do a side tangent for a quick second? We had an Egyptian doctor, pediatrician for our son, our first son, and she had been in Fort Lee for a long time, and she said, do you know why all the Koreans come to this area? It's because of Fort Lee and Palisades Park. They think Lee and Park, that that's where their ancestors are. Totally nothing to do with it. But, oh, my wife, yes, we had a great time, and then I retired. I was a pastor in New York City, which I mentioned last time, you guys were our competition. We had it out for you guys. We wanted to win. You guys didn't know that you were fighting against us, but we were fighting against you. We were trying to be a greater church, but you guys beat us. But I retired from being a pastor. I walked away. I felt called to go to California. That's where I was spiritually born. I I lived for many years, so I was like, I gotta go. God had been calling me for so long, I was like, I gotta go. And we went, and the night that we got there, we started struggling. We entered this new realm of relationship where we went from, whenever we'd be driving back in New Jersey, automatically, before I even knew it, my hand would just start reaching out for hers. And I just wanted to touch her because it gave me some sense of oneness. I felt complete with her. But in LA, when we got there, we started fighting. What ended up happening is I started rewiring how I related to my one and only, to my wife. And we started bickering over this stuff, and all of a sudden, I stopped reaching out for her hand. And then beyond that, when we let it go on for more and more and more time, her touch to me, I would start to recoil. It became like sandpaper. It became uncomfortable to me to touch her because I was rewiring myself to feel this way. And I was conscious of this, but I didn't feel like I could change it. And after that period of time, we stayed there for like 10 months. Toughest 10 months I've had, I think, in my life. And then we moved to Maryland. I got a call, literally, where, within an hour of hearing that Milhan Stevens had received a promotion and was now the vice president of headquarters, I got that email and I was like, oh man, I have this feeling like they're going to ask me to be the pastor. And then I got an email from Nari Stevens being like, hey, just to let you know, the council's thinking about you to be pastor. I was like, and then I called my spiritual mother. That's the other thing. I called my spiritual mother. I was like, I just want to tell you, I don't want to go back to ministry, but I think God's calling me back to ministry. She's like, oh my God, I didn't want to tell you, but I had a dream last weekend that you were going back to ministry. I was like, So eventually, within 3 days, I just threw my hands up. I was like, fine. So I became a pastor. Now we're in Maryland. But from that point of arriving in Maryland and cleaning up our lives, we started a business. We ended up in a lot of debt. Everything was just really frustrating. And to clean that up was this process of consciously, no matter how I felt, I knew that I could feel better. No matter how I felt about her, about my situation, I knew that there was something better. And I had to believe it, and I had to walk like it existed until it started to manifest, until it started to actually happen. And it took about 8 months before my wife and I really started to feel love, for me to feel loving towards my wife again. Because it would come in spurts, but it wasn't like it was in the beginning. And there's some notions out there, like in movies, if you watch movies like, I love you, oh, I don't love you anymore, let's get a divorce. And then that's it. It's just like they're following their feelings. But I know that we have the power to feel the way that we want to feel. Right? Are you still with me? Yeah. And this is a huge part of it. Living up to your word means not always feeling what your word says, but in order to live up to it. So I committed to her for eternity. So even if I don't feel it, I gotta find a way to make it work, right? So we worked like crazy to get through it. And that marriage group, the marriage course, that really helped us a lot. It just started a new conversation, a new paradigm between us. But I'm just saying, in terms of relationships, this is important to understand the power that you yield. That you can reconnect, you can reinstitute a new way of life for yourself, and I think we all owe ourselves that, the opportunity to actually learn who we really are, according to God, not according to what some teacher told us when we were in 3rd grade that we were stupid and we believed it since then, or what some angry person told us once in passing that we let it sink into us and affect our psyche. But who does God say you are? And when we start relating like that, and then we see people the way that God sees people, that's a fundamentally different existence. Okay, sorry, I'm tizzy. Does this thing work? Okay. So God feels the fullness of joy when He is stimulated by His substantial object partners to feel His original internal nature and original external form through them. But God cannot, again, work through us and with us if we're not letting access. Fear is like slamming the door shut to any possibility of God working. And then God tries to come in through the window, and we close the window. And then we put a towel under the door, and we seal ourselves off in this room of fear. I'm not good enough. Sure, you're not good enough. None of you are good enough, if that's what you want to believe. But if you want to believe that you're good enough and feel that you're good enough and start to allow other people, if your universe, we have our spirit world, this is kind of spherical thing, and whenever we come up to people, we affect them in a certain way. That's why when you leave your house, if you've done Hunaka and all that before, and you've really connected to God, when you come up to people, they feel different than when you're just kind of zoned out or whatever, and they feel nothing, or negative, or awkward around you. But in order to really allow God to work through us, we have to make space. And that means rewiring, rethinking about how we see ourselves and how we see our possibilities too for our lives. Oh my God. Right? Like we hear all the time, you can be whatever you want to be, especially in America. It's the land of opportunity. But how many of us actually believe that fundamentally? Fundamentally. Most of us, I would say, doubt that. Action to action. If you were to not say anything and just look at your actions, do you walk and live like you are able to do anything? Or do you live a very marginalized life based on small thinking and fear? So I'm going to have you guys talk to each other. I'm going to shut up for a second. So which one habit, and just focus on one habit, do you have that is holding you back from fully being a vessel for God, if you have one? And if you can think of it within a brief conversation, which habit could you possibly replace that bad habit with? It's not about just getting bad things out of your life, it's about replacing them with good things. So part of this is you guys got to talk to each other and figure it out. I don't have to say pair share, just talk. I don't know, 3 people, bro, whatever you want. Talk. Here you go. Have fun. Anybody that would like to share? Anybody that's too afraid to share that shouldn't share? Is God telling anybody to share? Yeah, Mom? Does she say yes or do you say yes? Okay. We all just start clapping? Or just start clapping? Yes.
We were sharing with Miss Christine, and we narrowed it down to her that this doesn't only apply with the spirituality and others, but we narrowed it down to how she, with her lymphatic problems, was like completely no hope, but after rewiring herself, she was able to get herself healed again because she understood the underlying causes of why she had that problem. That's her is the narrow part of what we narrowed down.
Okay.
Someone have their Bible? Can you Google it, someone, their Bible quickly? Matthew 6:33. Anybody? Okay. In it says something like this: seek ye first the kingdom of God and his righteousness, and everything else will fall unto you. So that's basically how I live my life. And sometimes, like I was sharing with some sisters, I get in trouble because this morning my wife, she's Chinese, we went to a Chinese supermarket, and I love to talk, I love to share. So I went in and I shared with the lady serving the food I went to serve or talk with the cashiers, and my wife got upset. What are you doing? But I think if we know divine principle, we know we have to share. Aju.
Aju. We also have to make our wives happy. There's balance too, right? And I totally agree with the first statement because my grandma she just turned 96 and she's overcome cancer 3 times. And the last time I was in the hospital and I asked the doctor, how's she doing? He said, I feel like a lot of doctors, they feel it, I don't know, they just don't say it, but he said, she'll be fine because she's very positive and that it's going to get her through this. And she's the last surviving sibling of 7. She was in the middle, so all of her older and younger, all of her friends are dead. And she refuses to have any give and take with negativity. And because of that, she's like, she just won't die. It's amazing. I get a nanny. My child's a great grandma. It's awesome. So it's definitely real. Thank you for sharing, William. But I also agree that our way isn't always the right way. Even when we feel called to do something, to have that flexibility to also... I'm going to shut up real soon, okay? Just one more thing that I really want to talk about, which is that so far in history, male ambition has been a very high virtue, to the point where you can become a king, or you can become an emperor, or like Napoleon can take over also. My wife is Mongolian, Genghis Khan wanted to take over the world, and they were going to do it until he just died. He would have done it though, I'm telling you, if you listen to history. But that was this virtue, because it was just this male-centric world where like, just bumping whoever's going to pick the gorilla, to destroy you because I have more ambition. That's great for that era. In the era of Chandragupta, male ambition alone is a walking disaster. It's not the whole picture. Because I realize that my ambition to want to work 24/7 is not healthy for my wife and my kids. No matter how bad I want to just do that all the time, I have to think about them and take care of them. Sometimes I have to walk slower and move slower, but I'm walking together with my family, and we're going to end up in the same place rather than me. Oh, I'm the only one here. Right? You run a marathon and you get there, but your family's not there. That's not the kingdom of heaven. The kingdom of heaven is we're all there, right? So it takes a little bit longer, but it's also being flexible enough to understand this era. That's what I'm saying is there's a lot of people who want this just to be about kings, and who want this to be a man thing. Messiah's a man. Messiah can be throwing a woman. Ah! My God, how many ripples have we seen because of the idea of a female leader? But those who adapt are able to open up new layers of their heart and experience more depth of love in God. I'm telling you, if you continue to be flexible in your mind, your heart will experience more than we could ever imagine. But this is a daily thing, and I'm going to end on this, okay? Is that up until now, all I've ever heard from principle viewpoint is that, you know, in your life of faith, you make a foundation of faith, and then you make a foundation of substance, and that's your foundation to receive the Messiah. And it happens how many times? Happens once, you have this mission where you create a foundation of faith, and then you get some sort of stuff, you do work on substance, and then you get to know who the Messiah is, yeah! But what if this was a daily practice? What if every single day you did Hundikin? Right? What if every single day you did Hundikin? It wasn't just Hundikin of a certain variety, it was something that really meant something to your family. You made an environment to God to really speak to you. And then that was your foundation of faith. And then your foundation of substance was going into the world and doing what you felt called to do in the morning. And to stay the same as you were in the morning, in the afternoon, at 3 p.m. when you get sleepy in front of your computer. To wake up and to remember, no, this morning I felt God's presence. I don't want to feel Him now, so that means I've got to go talk to people and spread it. And that's your foundation to not only receive the Messiah, but to become a tribal Messiah, to become a Messiah. Means to live like that every day. You're making these conditions, and that's an exciting life. To me, that's the most exciting life. And that's how we're meant to live. That's how we end up where we need to end up. It doesn't. To be a philosophologist means to be somebody on the couch with all the answers but no results. Nobody wants to be a philosophologist. Stop following mouths, follow feet, and be the one whose feet people are following. I think one more thing. Let's just close it there. That's enough. I don't want to burden you guys with too much information. But the essence here is just please understand, like, this is all I'm working on in my life. And and this is all I'm working on in the Maryland community, is to rewire ourselves so that we can be the people that we need to be. That means to be citizens of childhood. Picture, what does that mean to you? Realistically, what type of person do you want to be as a citizen of childhood? Is that constantly frustrated? Probably not. Do you have friends there? Probably. Do you have a happy marriage, happy family? Probably. Does that take work? Absolutely. Can you have what you want? Absolutely. If that's what God wants, it'll be, but you've got to put in the work. Okay? So let's join me in prayer. Please. Thank you so much for listening. Heavenly Parent, I'm here for you. I'm here because I love you, and I know how much you love everybody. And whenever I get that feeling in my heart, I just want to share it, and I also want to listen, and I want to help people heal so that they can grow, and I want to provide the space for you to work in all areas of my life. And I know that everybody has the same desires. They want you in their life. They want you in their hearts and in their minds. And they want you to be a part of their daily lives. And I pray that we can continually make space in our minds and in our hearts for you to work, so that we can understand the magic and powers that we have within us, so that we can live lives that are not just mundane, but that are magical, that are truly magical, that reminds us every day of how lucky we are, and how powerful we are, and how beautiful we are, as a reflection of how beautiful and powerful and wise and amazing that you are. We just let you work through us, and I pray that we can become those great objects that the Divine Principle was talking about. And I pray that we can support each other in this journey, and that we can work with difficult people, that our concepts about people are just our concepts, they're not your concepts. And that we can rewire our brains and our hearts to feel what you feel about those people that we struggle with, so that there's nobody that we cannot love, so that we can help them to become resurrected people, so that we can love them truly and deeply, and that they can feel your love through us, not through our mouths telling them what they should feel, but that they feel it through us. So I love you, and I thank you so much for letting me speak with these beautiful people here, and I pray that everybody can have a meaningful week, and that they can have breakthroughs in their lives in whatever area they seek after, and that they can find more deeply why they're here, why they're born in this time, and what value they can bring to this world. And together, on behalf of everybody here at Clifton, I offer you this prayer and this service, and I do so in the love family name of Blessed True Family. Amen. Thank you.